Have you ever felt that life gave you nothing but problems? This was J.K. Rowling's life before Harry Potter. Rowling was a single mother. She had no job, very little money, and a small daughter to take care of. At that time, she felt like a complete failure. She even thought of giving up many times, but she had one thing that gave her hope: writing. Every day, she pushed her baby's stroller to a small cafe in Edinburgh. While her daughter slept, Rowling took out her notebook and began to write. She did not have a laptop. She only had old paper and a pen. With each word, she tried to escape her sadness and create a magical world of her own. When the book was finished, she sent it to publishers. But the first one said no. The second one said no. The third one said no. In fact, 12 publishers rejected her book. They thought it was too long. They thought children would not like it. Each rejection was painful. Still, Rowling refused to give up. She told herself, maybe the next one will say yes. And so she kept sending her story again and again. Finally, one small publisher gave the book to an editor. The editor's little daughter read the first chapter and asked for more. That simple reaction changed Rowling's life. The publisher agreed to print 500 copies of Harry Potter and The Philosopher's Stone. The first book was not a bestseller right away, but word spread quickly. Children loved the story. Parents loved it too. Soon, Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Rowling went from living on government support to becoming one of the most successful authors in history. She created not only books, but also movies, theme parks, and a worldwide community of fans. Her story teaches us something powerful. Success is not always about talent. It is about persistence. When life tells you no, keep going until you find the one yes that changes everything. Rowling once said, "Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." Remember this: your worst days can be the beginning of your greatest story. So what dream will you keep fighting for? Do you know that the man who created Mickey Mouse was once told he had no imagination? This is the story of Walt Disney, a man who turned rejection into a kingdom of dreams. Walt Disney grew up in a poor family in Missouri. From a young age, he loved to draw, but life was hard, and his father often told him that art would never feed a family. As a teenager, Walt wanted to become a cartoonist. He showed his drawings to newspapers, but most of them rejected him. One editor even said, "You lack creativity." Imagine hearing that when your biggest dream is to draw. But Walt refused to give up. He took small jobs as an artist, sometimes working long nights just to earn a few coins. He believed that one day his drawings would come alive. In his early 20s, Walt started a company called Laugh-O-Gram Studios. At first it looked promising. He and his small team made short films based on fairy tales, but money was tight. He trusted the wrong partners, and soon the company went bankrupt. Walt had nothing left. He couldn't even pay rent. He carried only a few dollars and a suitcase full of drawings when he boarded a train to Hollywood. For most people, this would have been the end. For Walt, it was the beginning. In Hollywood, Walt and his brother Roy started a new company. They created a character called Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. It became popular, but when Walt went to renew his contract, the studio that distributed Oswald betrayed him. They took away the rights to his character and most of his staff. It was another devastating loss. But during the train ride home, Walt began sketching a new idea. It was a little mouse with big round ears. That mouse became Mickey Mouse. At first, no distributor wanted Mickey, but Walt added something new: synchronized sound. In 1928, Mickey starred in Steamboat Willie, one of the first cartoons with sound. It was a huge success and changed animation forever. After Mickey, Walt continued to take risks. Many people laughed at him when he decided to make a full-length animated movie. They called it Disney's Folly. But Walt believed in his vision. In 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs premiered. It was the first animated feature film in history. Critics loved it. Audiences cried, laughed, and cheered. Walt had proved everyone wrong. Over the years, Disney created more classics: Cinderella, Bambi, Peter Pan. But his biggest dream was still ahead: a place where families could enter a world of magic. In 1955, despite countless delays, financial struggles, and skepticism, Walt opened Disneyland. On the first day, people doubted if it would last. Today, it is one of the most visited places on Earth. Walt Disney died in 1966, but his vision lives on in every Disney movie, every theme park, and in the hearts of millions of children. His life teaches us something powerful. Failure is not the end. Rejection does not define you. What matters is your ability to imagine and to keep building, even when others doubt you. As Walt himself once said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So the next time someone tells you that your dream is impossible, remember Walt Disney. He lost companies, he lost characters, he lost money, but he never lost faith. Now ask yourself, what dream will you keep chasing, even when others don't believe in it? Oprah Winfrey is one of the most famous talk show hosts and media leaders in the world, but her journey to success was not easy. She faced poverty, hardship, and rejection before she became the queen of all media. Her story teaches us how resilience and belief can change a life. Oprah was born in rural Mississippi in 1954. Her family was very poor, and she often wore dresses made from potato sacks because they could not afford new clothes. As a child, she lived with her grandmother, who encouraged her to read the Bible out loud in church. That experience built her confidence in speaking, even though she was still very young. Later, Oprah lived with her mother in Milwaukee. Life there was extremely difficult. She suffered from abuse, instability, and loneliness. At only 14 years old, she became pregnant, but her baby died soon after birth. Many people thought her life was over before it had even begun. But Oprah refused to let tragedy define her. She went to live with her father in Nashville, Tennessee. Her father was strict, but he believed strongly in education. He demanded that she read a book and write a report every week. This discipline gave Oprah the structure she needed to change her path. At school, she discovered her gift for speaking. She joined debate teams and speech competitions. People noticed her natural charisma and powerful voice. This talent would soon open doors. As a teenager, Oprah won a scholarship to study communication at Tennessee State University. At just 19, she became the youngest and first African-American female news anchor at a local television station. At first, producers criticized her. They said she was too emotional and didn't fit the traditional style of news reporting. But that very weakness later became her greatest strength. Instead of delivering news in a cold, distant way, Oprah connected with people on a personal level. She spoke with warmth and authenticity. Audiences felt she was truly listening. In 1986, Oprah launched The Oprah Winfrey Show. Within a year, it became the #1 talk show in America. What made her show different was her ability to create a safe space. Guests shared their deepest struggles, and millions of viewers felt inspired by their courage. Oprah used her platform to discuss not only celebrities, but also real-life issues: poverty, racism, health, and personal growth. She turned television into a place for healing and self-discovery. Even as she grew successful, Oprah faced doubts. She was told that a Black woman from the South could never dominate American media. She was told that her emotional style was unprofessional. Yet she refused to listen to the voices of doubt. Instead, she trusted her own vision. Over the years, Oprah built a media empire that included magazines, a television network, and philanthropy. She became one of the most influential women in the world. Oprah's life reminds us of 3 powerful lessons. 1. Your past does not define your future. Even if you start with pain and poverty, you can choose a new path. 2. Turn your weakness into strength. The quality that others criticized, her emotional style, became the reason people loved her. 3. Success is not just about money. Oprah used her influence to empower others and to inspire millions to believe in themselves. At some point in life, we all face rejection, loss, or criticism. It can feel like the world is telling us to give up. But Oprah's story proves that no matter where you start, you can rewrite your story. As Oprah once said, "Turn your wounds into wisdom." This is the key message we can carry with us today. Steve Jobs was not born into wealth. He was adopted as a baby, and his parents were ordinary people. From the very beginning, life for Jobs was not about comfort. It was about curiosity. He loved to take things apart: radios, machines, even computers. He wanted to understand how things worked. But Jobs was not the perfect student. In fact, he dropped out of college after just 1 semester. Most people would see that as a failure. How can someone succeed without a degree? Jobs, however, saw things differently. He stayed on campus, sleeping on friends' floors, and attending classes that interested him. One of those classes was calligraphy. At the time, it seemed useless, but years later it would inspire the beautiful fonts on the first Macintosh computer. Jobs' life is proof that even small interests, even random skills, can later become powerful tools. After leaving college, Jobs and his friend Steve Wozniak started a company in a small garage. That company was called Apple. Imagine 2 young men surrounded by wires, tools, and dreams, building something that would one day reshape the world. Their first computer was simple, but it opened the door to something bigger. Soon, Apple became one of the most exciting new companies in Silicon Valley. Jobs was only in his 20s when Apple went public, making him a millionaire. But success did not last long. As Apple grew, conflicts grew as well. Jobs had strong opinions, and sometimes he was difficult to work with. Eventually, he was forced out of the very company he had created. Imagine building your dream, only to be told you are no longer welcome. Most people would give up, but not Steve Jobs. He used this painful moment as fuel. He started a new company called Next. He also bought a small animation studio called Pixar. At the time, Pixar was struggling, but under Jobs' vision, it created Toy Story, the world's first fully computer-animated film. Pixar became a giant in the film industry. Meanwhile, Apple was losing its way. Without Jobs, the company was weak. In 1997, Apple invited Jobs back. It was his chance for redemption, and he did not waste it. Jobs introduced products that changed not only Apple, but the entire world. The iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. Each product was more than just technology. They were experiences. The iPod wasn't just a music player. It was 1,000 songs in your pocket. The iPhone wasn't just a phone. It was a device that connected people to the internet, to apps, to the future. Jobs had a gift. He could see what people wanted before they even knew it themselves. His focus on design, simplicity, and beauty turned Apple into one of the most valuable companies in history. But Jobs' life was not only about success. In 2003, he was diagnosed with cancer. For the next 8 years, he battled the disease while still leading Apple. His famous speech at Stanford University in 2005 revealed how he thought about life and death. He told students, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." These words capture the essence of Jobs' journey. Never be satisfied with what you have. Never stop exploring, questioning, creating. Even when life pushes you down, use it as a reason to rise higher. Jobs passed away in 2011, but his vision lives on. Every time we swipe a screen, listen to music on our phones, or watch a movie made by Pixar, we are living inside his legacy. Steve Jobs' story teaches us that failure is not the end. It is a beginning. Dropping out of college, being fired from Apple, even facing death, each moment shaped him. His genius was not only in technology, but in his mindset. He believed that the dots of life connect, even when you cannot see the full picture yet. For us, the lesson is clear. Don't be afraid of detours. Don't fear failure. Sometimes the hardest moments become the most powerful turning points. So ask yourself, what dots in your life today might connect to a bigger picture tomorrow? Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players in history, was not always seen as a champion. In high school, Jordan was cut from the varsity basketball team. Imagine how painful that was for a teenager who loved the game. Many people would have given up, but Jordan did not stop. He trained harder, practicing every morning and evening. His mindset was simple. Every failure was a chance to improve. When he finally joined the varsity team, he showed incredible progress. In college, he hit the winning shot for North Carolina in the 1982 National Championship game. That single moment began to show the world who he could become. Later in the NBA, Jordan's path was not smooth either. The Detroit Pistons had a defensive strategy called the Jordan Rules, a brutal way of stopping him. Instead of being discouraged, Jordan used these defeats as fuel. He lifted weights, improved his skills, and returned stronger. Eventually, he led the Chicago Bulls to 6 championships in the 1990s, becoming a global icon of perseverance and excellence. Jordan once said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I was trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." This quote is not only about basketball, it's about life. True success is built on failure. Each mistake is not the end. It is a step toward growth. For learners of English, and for anyone chasing a dream, Jordan's story is a reminder. Don't fear mistakes. Embrace them, learn from them, and keep moving forward. Nelson Mandela is one of the most respected leaders of the 20th century, but his path to greatness was not easy. His life was a long struggle against injustice, filled with sacrifice, patience, and incredible courage. Mandela was born in 1918 in a small village in South Africa. As a child, he saw how life was very different for Black people and white people. Later, this unfair system was given the name apartheid. Under apartheid, Black South Africans could not vote, could not live in certain areas, and were often forced into low-paying jobs. Schools, hospitals, buses, almost everything was separated. It was a system built on discrimination and inequality. Mandela's early education showed him another possibility. That knowledge could be a tool to fight injustice. He studied law and became one of the first Black lawyers in South Africa. Every day he saw how the legal system was used against his people, and he decided he could not stay silent. In the 1940s and 1950s, Mandela joined the African National Congress, also called the ANC. At first, the ANC organized peaceful protests, boycotts, and marches. Mandela believed in nonviolence, but as the government responded with brutal force, beating protesters, arresting leaders, and even shooting unarmed civilians, he realized the road to justice would be much harder than he had imagined. By the early 1960s, Mandela became one of the most visible leaders of the anti-apartheid movement. The government saw him as a threat. In 1962, he was arrested. 2 years later, in 1964, he and several others were put on trial and sentenced to life in prison. He was only 46 years old. Mandela was sent to Robben Island, a prison just off the coast of Cape Town. His cell was small and bare, just a mat on the floor, a bucket, and little else. Prisoners were forced to do hard labor, breaking rocks in the hot sun. They were allowed very few visits from family. Letters were often delayed or heavily censored. For many, this would have been the end. But Mandela refused to give up. Inside prison, he became a teacher and a leader. He encouraged prisoners to study, to learn, to debate. He believed that even in chains, the mind could remain free. He treated guards with respect, slowly earning their admiration. Over time, he became known as the father of the prison community. Year after year passed, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Still, Mandela stayed in prison. Outside, the world was changing. More and more countries condemned apartheid. People marched in London, New York, and many other cities, demanding Mandela's freedom. His name became a symbol of resistance. Finally, in 1990, after 27 long years, Mandela was released. He walked out of prison hand in hand with his wife Winnie, raising his fist in victory. Millions watched on television around the world. He was no longer just a South African leader. He had become a global icon of hope. But Mandela's greatest test was still to come. In 1994, South Africa held its first free democratic election. For the first time in history, Black South Africans could vote. The lines at polling stations stretched for miles. And when the results were announced, Nelson Mandela became the country's first Black president. What shocked the world was not his victory, but his attitude. After decades of suffering, many expected revenge. But Mandela chose reconciliation. He invited his former enemies to work with him. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to heal the wounds of the past. He wore the jersey of the national rugby team, once a symbol of white dominance, to show unity. Mandela believed that forgiveness was more powerful than hatred. His presidency did not solve all of South Africa's problems, but it gave the nation a chance at peace and equality. Mandela once said, "Courage is not the absence of fear. It's inspiring others to move beyond it." His story teaches us that strength is not about being fearless. It is about holding on to your purpose, even when fear is real, even when years of waiting seem endless. Think about it. 27 years in a small prison cell, and yet he never lost his vision of freedom. He could have come out bitter and angry, but instead, he chose hope and forgiveness. For English learners, and for anyone trying to grow, Mandela's life is a reminder that progress takes time. Sometimes, change feels too slow. Sometimes the struggle feels too heavy. But Mandela shows us that patience, consistency, and belief can move mountains. So when you face difficulties, whether in study, in work, or in life, remember Mandela. If he could endure nearly 3 decades in prison and still walk out with a hope, then we too can overcome the challenges in front of us. Imagine risking your life just to go to school. For Malala Yousafzai, this wasn't imagination, it was reality. Malala Yousafzai was born in 1997 in Mingora, a town in Pakistan's Swat Valley. Her father, Ziauddin, was a teacher who believed in the power of education. He ran a school and encouraged Malala to love books and learning. From a young age, Malala was different. While many girls in her community were expected to stay at home, Malala dreamed of becoming a doctor, a leader, or even a politician. She would often say, "Why should education only be for boys? Girls have brains too." The Swat Valley was beautiful, surrounded by mountains and rivers, but it was also a place of rising danger. When Malala was about 10 years old, the Taliban, a militant group, began to take control. They banned music, destroyed schools, and told girls they should not be educated. Overnight, the dreams of thousands of girls were taken away. While many people stayed silent out of fear, Malala decided to speak. With the help of her father, she began writing a blog for the BBC under a secret name. In her blog, she described what it was like to be a girl in Swat Valley, trying to go to school while hearing gunshots outside. She wrote about how scared she felt, but also how determined she was to keep learning. Her words spread across the world. Later, she appeared on Pakistani television, speaking openly against the Taliban's rules. "They cannot stop us from learning," she said. She was only 11 years old, yet she spoke with the courage of someone far older. Courage often comes with danger. On October 9th, 2012, Malala was riding a bus home from school with her friends. A man with a gun stopped the bus, asked for her by name, and shot her in the head. The world was shocked. News spread across every country. A young girl had been attacked just because she wanted to learn. Doctors fought to save her life. She was flown to the United Kingdom for treatment. For days, no one knew if she would survive. But Malala's story was not over. Against the odds, she recovered. The attack that was meant to silence her only made her voice louder. After months of surgeries and therapy, Malala stood before the world stronger than ever. In 2013, she spoke at the United Nations on her 16th birthday. She said, "One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world." Her speech became famous. She was no longer just a girl from Swat Valley. She had become a symbol of courage and education. Malala co-founded the Malala Fund, an organization that supports education for girls around the world. She traveled to countries like Nigeria, Kenya, and Syria, speaking with children who had lost their schools due to war or poverty. In 2014, at the age of 17, Malala became the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Standing on the stage, she said the award was not just for her, but for all the girls denied an education. But even after all the fame, Malala remained humble. She continued her own studies, attending Oxford University, while still advocating for millions of others. She proved that you can fight for global change and still pursue your personal dreams. Malala's story teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear. She admitted she was afraid many times, but courage means acting in spite of fear. She reminds us that no one is too young to make a difference, and no dream is too small if it helps others. For us, the lesson is clear. When life tries to silence you, speak louder. When challenges push you down, rise again. And when you feel powerless, remember Malala, a young girl who changed the world with her voice. What would you do if you could neither see nor hear? For most of us, life would stop. But for Helen Keller, life was just beginning. Helen Keller was born in 1880 in a small town in Alabama, USA. She was a healthy baby, full of energy and curiosity. But at only 19 months old, she was struck by an illness, most likely scarlet fever or meningitis, that left her both blind and deaf. Imagine the silence and darkness around her. No words, no sights, no sounds. As a little child, Helen grew frustrated. She could not communicate with her family. She would throw tantrums, grab things from people's hands, or feel her way around the house to understand the world. Her parents loved her, but felt helpless. Doctors gave little hope. People whispered that she might never live a normal life. Everything changed in 1887 when a young teacher named Anne Sullivan arrived at the Keller home. Anne herself had poor eyesight and understood struggle. From the beginning, she refused to give up on Helen. Anne began teaching her by spelling words into Helen's hand. She pressed letters into her palm. DOLL while giving her a doll, or WATER while pouring water. At first, Helen only imitated, not understanding. She grew impatient, sometimes even rebellious. But Anne never stopped. The breakthrough came one spring day. Anne took Helen to the water pump. She let the cool water rush over Helen's hand while spelling "what ER" into her other palm. Again and again. Suddenly, Helen's face lit up. She realized that the movements in her hand meant the water she was feeling. It was her first word, her first bridge to the world. That moment changed her life. From then on, Helen's hunger for knowledge exploded. She ran around the garden, touching everything, asking Anne to spell the words into her hand. Flower, earth, tree. In just one day, she learned 30 words. Soon she moved on to reading and writing. She used Braille books to read with her fingertips. She even learned to speak by feeling the vibrations of other people's throats and lips. Her progress amazed everyone. A girl once trapped in silence and darkness was now becoming a voice for millions. Helen went on to graduate from Radcliffe College at Harvard, becoming the first deafblind person in history to earn a bachelor's degree. She wrote books, delivered speeches around the world, and fought for the rights of people with disabilities, for women, and for peace. Her story inspired presidents, kings, and ordinary people alike. She proved that the human spirit, when guided by hope and education, can overcome any barrier. Helen Keller once said, "The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision." Her life is a reminder that obstacles are not the end. With courage, guidance, and persistence, we can find our own water pump moment, the spark that opens new doors. What if your dream was so big that people laughed at you? For Elon Musk, this was normal. When he talked about sending rockets to space or building electric cars, many thought he was crazy. But today, those same dreams are shaping the future of humanity. Elon Musk was born in South Africa in 1971. As a child, he was quiet and curious. He loved reading and often spent hours with books. At age 12, he even created his own video game and sold it for money. But life wasn't easy. He was bullied in school, sometimes beaten so badly that he had to stay home to recover. Instead of giving up, Elon turned his pain into determination. At 17, he left South Africa to search for bigger opportunities. First Canada, then the United States. He believed the U.S. was the best place to pursue technology and space exploration. Elon started small. His first company, Zip2, helped newspapers put content online. He worked day and night, often sleeping in the office. In 1999, he sold the company for millions. But instead of retiring, he jumped into something riskier: online payments. He co-founded PayPal, which later became one of the most successful internet companies. Still, Elon didn't stop. Money was never the main goal. His dream was bigger: to change the world. In 2002, he founded SpaceX. Many thought it was impossible. Rockets cost billions, and every failure burned money. His first 3 launches all exploded. Critics called him foolish, but Elon refused to quit. On the 4th attempt, SpaceX finally reached orbit. That moment changed everything. NASA signed contracts, and SpaceX became a leader in space exploration. At the same time, he invested in Tesla, an electric car company. Again, people doubted him. They said electric cars would never succeed. In the early years, Tesla was close to bankruptcy. Elon even borrowed money from friends to pay bills, but through persistence, Tesla survived, and now it is one of the most valuable car companies in the world. Elon Musk's vision goes beyond business. He believes humanity must become a multi-planet species. SpaceX is working on rockets that may one day carry people to Mars. He also started Solar City for clean energy, and later Neuralink to connect human brains with technology. Some of these ideas sound like science fiction, but for Elon, they are serious goals. Behind the success, Elon faced great pressure. He worked long hours, sometimes over 100 hours a week. His personal life suffered. Many times, his companies were days away from collapsing. But through all the stress, he kept going. He accepted failure as part of progress. He once said, "When something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor." Today, Elon Musk is one of the most influential figures in technology. He shows us that crazy ideas can change the world if you have the courage to chase them. His story teaches us: dream big, even if others laugh. Accept failure as a step forward. Work with passion, not just for money. So the next time someone doubts your dream, remember Elon Musk. The future often starts with an idea that seems impossible. Silence shaped her childhood. Poetry shaped her destiny. Maya Angelou was one of the most powerful voices of the 20th century. She was a poet, a singer, a dancer, an actress, and above all, a storyteller who inspired millions. But her path to greatness was anything but easy. She was born in 1928 in a small town in Arkansas in the American South. From the very beginning, her life was marked by hardship. At the age of 8, she experienced a traumatic event that left her deeply scarred. For nearly 5 years, she did not speak. People thought she would never recover, but in her silence, Maya listened carefully to the world around her. She memorized poems, read every book she could find, and discovered the beauty of language. What others saw as weakness, she turned into strength. As she grew older, life continued to test her. She became a single mother at only 16. To support herself and her son, she worked many jobs: cook, dancer, singer, even streetcar conductor. She traveled across the world, performing in clubs and theaters, and learning different cultures and languages. Each experience added depth to her understanding of humanity. In 1969, Maya Angelou released her groundbreaking autobiography, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It was a bold and honest story about race, identity, and survival. For the first time, millions of readers saw the world through the eyes of a Black woman who refused to be silenced. The book became a classic and gave courage to people everywhere. But her influence went far beyond books. Maya worked with leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X during the Civil Rights Movement. She used her voice, her writing, and her presence to fight for justice and equality. She spoke at universities, recited poems at presidential inaugurations, and reminded people that words have the power to heal, to inspire, and to change the world. One of her most famous poems, Still I Rise, carries a timeless message of resilience. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Through these lines, Maya Angelou told the world that no matter how many times life pushes you down, you have the strength to rise again. Her legacy is not just in her books or her poems, but in the lives she touched. She showed us that even in the face of pain, prejudice, and doubt, you can stand tall, speak your truth, and live with dignity. Maya Angelou's story is a reminder: your voice matters, your story matters. And no matter what challenges you face, you too can rise.
Thanks for listening. If you found this breakdown useful, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you'll never miss the next big idea. And I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know which book you'd like us to explore next.